Okay. Well, today we have got Cade Bryce with us, and he's been working in the industry for a very long time. He was one of my students just really briefly as I was coming in and teaching. And honestly, you know, if I count my top 10 students, he's in the top 10, maybe the top 5 students. A smart guy can pretty much do whatever he's asked to do. As a matter of fact, I've had people ask me that. So what about this Cade Bryce? And I, of course, I don't share that with him, but they'll ask me and I'll say, oh yeah, Cade can do whatever you want. Whatever you want him to do, he can take care of it. And so I've known him for quite a while, and I'm going to turn it over to him now to kind of describe, you know, what he does and where he started and how it all came about, and kind of his life in IT. And this, again, for the students, I don't know what we're going to cover in this, but you just need to know we're going to talk about IT stuff and try to focus on things we wish we had known. Like if somebody would come into our class and said, oh, this is what you should know, you know, what is that? So take it away, Cade, and tell us about it.
Before I get into me, and thank you, James, for that. To give you some background on James, of how I learned to appreciate James at a very young age. I was best friends with his youngest brother growing up, and that's kind of a bit of our association. But I remember playing a computer game back when Andrew and I were quite young, and they had changed the network topology from NetBIOS or NetBEUI to TCP/IP was the only way that you could connect to play this game. And we were just mind blown. We were these little kids, didn't understand what was going on. So James had let Andrew borrow this little network, 3Com network switch or some type of little network switch. And so yeah, just plug in these network cables and put this number in right here and put this number in right here. And I was just fascinated that James knew all this information. Like, how do you know 192.168.1. whatever? Where does that even come from? Just really instilled a really big desire to learn more about networking. I've always had a passion for technology, but when that came from a video game of all the silly things to find a passion to do in the rest of your life. But I was just very impressed anyway at a very young age, and that kind of put my path to where I'm at today to the most extent. And so I appreciate James for that. But again, my name is Cade Bryce. My current job, I'm the systems administrator here at the city of Safford. I've been here for 10 years. It's a great job. I love where I work. I get to wear many hats. That's why that systems administrator in our organization, you know, sometimes you have systems admins that are just over Windows servers or just over this particular application or just Office 365. But due to our size, I get to be over everything. And so it's a very entertaining role. I can't get bored of my job. I love it. And it's been good. I started out in IT, again, at a pretty young age, working with databases for my dad's business. I was probably in my teens, you know, 17, 18 years old, creating access databases to track stuff on his farm. I grew up on a farm. That was my first job I ever had, and knew I didn't want to keep working on a farm. So that's why I went into technology. So a little bit less labor intensive, but it did teach me good work ethic. And so I appreciate that. But and I've been in and out of different places, started in school districts here locally with Pima and Fort Thomas in their IT help desk area, learning and growing from there. And then had a really good opportunity to move up to the Northwest and really broaden my horizon and my skill set up there. Worked for one of the biggest laboratories in the Northwest as far as handling blood samples and different things like that. And so my job as a network administrator up there was to manage their network, which spanned 3 states, Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. We were just starting to get into the northern side of California. And so I managed a really big MPLS network up there of all of our sites. And so that was a really big learning curve. And then job opened up here at the city of Safford, and we want to move back home, and here I am. But I have a passion for technology, and I really enjoy it.
Well, fantastic. Yeah, I until you mentioned moving up to Washington, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. He went up there. You worked for somebody basically that was providing a system for all the doctors' offices that you would see, basically.
Electronic health records were taken off, and there's a really big incentive for all these doctors' offices to turn to that.
Yeah.
And so we would come in and provide them all those services.
Yeah. I wanted to, pause on that for a second, just
Yeah.
because, that's one of those areas where when I'm talking about different jobs, I say there's just millions, right?
Mhm.
There's so many different things, and they've all got their own little slant and focus. And so you can't really, it's hard to just generally say, I'm a network admin, because what does that mean? I mean, a network admin for you was a lot different than doing a network admin for the city of Safford.
Absolutely.
You got all those remote offices with all those remote connections. That's that what you're going to focus on is a lot different.
Yes, very much so.
So you said that was a pretty big learning curve.
Mhm.
How did you feel about that at the time? And
It
did
was
anything from your education actually fit into that?
it did. I started to finally see, these network security classes and network classes that you take that talk about things about why the OSI model is so important, what this layer is, what that layer is, and to be able to get out there and finally start seeing that in real time of why it's important, where layer 7 is, and that this layer 3 switch can do this, and to keep this network isolated over here. And it was vitally important. We had HIPAA to worry about, and so
Yeah.
here we had a system that we were serving tons of doctors' offices, but then these doctors' offices couldn't talk to each other because then that would be a violation of HIPAA. And so we all managed that through the network. And so that's, I
Yeah.
guess, that big aha moment happened at that particular time.
Yeah, I remember when that happened for me, because I didn't get to take a class on it. I just had to read it out of a book. But that's really where you're like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, that was chapter 3.
Right.
Like, oh, thank goodness I know a little bit about this, because you wouldn't even know what to search on,
Right.
to find answers. So what is it about your current job that you love the most?
I think the flexibility is really nice. I work 410s, which is fantastic. It's a great work schedule. Um, and the fact that I get to put my hand in so many different things. I get to learn about different types of software applications, and then how to better that, how to marry the two, interacting with different databases, and then being able to tie those together. I think the greatest gratification I have is working with different departments, whether it's HR or accounting or our utilities or the police department, and helping them understand technology and how to use it better, and then designing and developing systems for them, whether it be an application that we bought or something that we've designed in-house is what we have currently, and introducing that to them and just making their jobs easier, that they can work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. So why do you think they allow that flexibility? And do you think that's common?
It's not. It's not common. I think there's a pretty bad stigma when it comes to IT departments in general, that they're just the fixers of things. And they kind of get a chip on their shoulder or jaded in that atmosphere when, because we only get called when stuff's broken, right? And
Yeah.
so they kind of get a negative demeanor towards it, and that you kind of get the crotchety, grumpy IT person that stereotypically I think is said, that doesn't have a whole lot of people skills and just hates people. And that, I don't think you can afford to do that in today's society, but especially in IT. But I think that's one reason why we've had a lot of success where we're at, is because of the way we approach it. We're very hands-on. We're very proactive instead of reactive when it comes to technology at the city. And I think that has softened people's understanding, where they're excited about it, where our interactions are on great things moving forward, not just things that are broken in frustrating times. And so I think that helps out tremendously.
Well, let's give them something to maybe look at later, or go on the internet and do some research. What kind of technologies are you using there? What technologies are you over?
Mhm.
And did you get to decide on any of those?
And that's another part where I love my job. Most of the stuff, yes, I've infrastructure wise, in our IT infrastructure, I've been the key deciding factor in all of it. And I really love that. I get to engineer it, I get to move it forward, and it feels pretty good. The software, sometimes I don't get to choose that, unfortunately. That's where some of the biggest gripes I think probably come from my position, is when those that are using the software want something, even though I may look at it from an IT standpoint and think, well, it's not going to really work that way. The vendors have them hook, line, and sinker, and I just get to smile and nod and then help them try to fix it later.
That's where those people skills come in. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
We'll plan 2 years down the road of you switching off of this. Okay. We're not going to tell you that.
Now we just implemented a HP DHCI solution. It's basically
What?
where they
HP, what?
DHCI.
DHCI.
It's
Tell me.
almost like I don't. kind of like storage as a service, because that's not it, because the storage is still here internally. We have it, but it's basically a big hybrid system. It's all their servers. They bought out Nimble, so they use Nimble as their backend for their storage. And it's just a system that all integrates with each other. It's got big, what they call them, these switches, had a name for them, and my name escapes me, but it's basically a whole data center package. Your servers, your switching, your data, everything that you need with VMware licensing, it's all there. And it's just a complete package that's put together. They engineer for your size and needs, and it's pretty fantastic.
So what does that give to your user? I mean, what do they see?
We've probably increased our computing power tremendously. I mean, we've gone from a 4-server cluster down to 3, and yet we still probably have like a 600% CPU increase,
Wow.
which is through the roof. We went to complete solid state storage, so all of our SQL databases are so much faster. Reports that used to take 45 minutes to run, before they get all that data crunched. When it comes to utility bills, it's a lot of data. Are done in 5 minutes. It's been pretty fantastic to see technology actually succeed and work well.
Yeah. And I want to point out to the students that when you put something in place like that, you're the one that's the hero.
Yeah.
Because you've made their life easier, which is something that you have mentioned, is that, you have to have that, or should have that idea of, hey, we're hands-on, we're here to help you to get what you need. Even to the point of, like in the software portion you mentioned, maybe not getting what you want, but making sure they get what they want.
Right.
Now, when they get a piece of software like that, and it doesn't quite do what it's supposed to do, or what the magazine said it was going to do, or the website said it was going to do, who's to blame for that? I mean, what happens when that occurs?
Thankfully, in our ecosystem right now, the vendor's taking a lot of heat. We've been the saviors when we've bailed them out. If it wasn't for our IT department, when this vendor signed on, take for our utility billing, for example, our net metering with solar never would have gotten off the ground because they couldn't figure it out. And so we had to step in as IT department and help them understand it and figure it out, and basically fix it for them. Still waiting for my paycheck on that one from them, but it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, you didn't even get a perk like
Right.
iPad got sent to you or something like that. Like, hey, thanks a lot for working for us.
Yeah, exactly. But then again, I think that just goes back to, I really like where I work. I mean, I could have taken the objective of having a chip on my shoulder, like, you chose this software, it's not working for you. Sorry about your luck.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's not who I think our IT department stands for. It's not who I stand for. And so it's consciously, I wanted to make it work, because at the end of the day, I'm here for the employees. I could care less about the vendor.
Yeah. So, to point out again, something that we've talked about in class is that you have to try to pull your ego out of what you're doing. And in your situation where you're fulfilling a lot of technology needs, and you're really buffering them from that, like they don't have to worry about everything you just described. They just go, oh, it's working, right? I load it up, it does what I want it to do. But if your ego was in the way, you would have stepped in and said, idiots, I told you.
Right, exactly.
So deal with it now, because you didn't do what I said. So you just deal with it.
Exactly.
And that doesn't help you.
No, it doesn't. Probably creates a little less stress, but no, in the overall long run, it does not help. It's not healthy.
Now, I know I've got students right now going, well, yeah, that seems like that's what you would do, right? Wouldn't everybody do that? But I'm trying to point out the fact that is not even the majority of IT. The majority of IT would have said, you chose it, you screwed it up, you deal with it. And then, of course, probably about, 6 weeks or so later, finally jumped in and done something about it. For students, I don't know what Cade's plans are, but that leaves a really good taste in everybody's mouth. So if he ever decides to leave, I would suggest 2 things will happen. One, Cade, please don't leave. Here's some more money. number two, when they get those calls, hey, do you know Cade over there? Then it's all positive.
Mhm.
It's not, oh yeah, we know Cade, like a year ago, we switched this system and it was crap and it's all his fault, right? Because they're not going to tell the whole story, right?
Right. Absolutely. IT gets to be a pretty good scapegoat sometimes.
Yes, it does. It's a computer's fault. So what would you have wanted to know if you were beginning in your education, this first semester, and now, you're far beyond that now.
Mhm.
Looking back to that first semester, what would you have liked to have known?
Goodness, it's a pretty open question.
It is. So it can be about
Uh,
anything. It can be technology,
in all
it could be
honesty,
personalities, or anything.
as silly as it's going to sound, I mean, knowing what I know now, probably I wish I would have pushed even more. Like I've always had a passion for databases or a knack for that type of knowledge. I didn't understand how important data is in the overall scheme of things when it comes not only to just having people's data, but for making business decisions. Moving forward, being able to run scenarios through big data, I think would have been. It's exciting stuff. It's a lot of fun, and let's be honest, there's a lot of dollar signs behind it as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
When you can achieve and do those things, and I think if I were to talk to my younger self, I probably would say, "Hey, you kind of got a knack for this." I would probably push it a little bit harder. Take some more SQL database classes or Oracle or whatever it is. Just become really well versed, even more so than you have natural talent for now, and push forward on that. There's just so many avenues when it comes to technology. You're just so overwhelmed about which one to choose. And
Yeah.
I had thought I had a really good and I still do a passion for the networking security side of it, and that's kind of where I've taken my profession. But I still get to dabble into the database side of it, and I enjoy it. But I
Yeah.
think I would have done more on that than the other.
Yeah. That leads into something that I try to explain to students when they're starting out, because a lot of them will have this attitude of, okay, so what am I going to do for my bachelor's? And they kind of want me to answer that for them. They want to know, what's the sure path for this? And of course, I don't answer that. And we end up talking about exactly what you said, of all these different avenues, all these different paths. And the honest truth is that much of it you won't know until you get there.
Correct.
Until you get there and you start doing it. As a matter of fact, I was talking today in a different class. I was telling them about, interests and where those interests lead, and the fact that back when I started, there was really no information on anything. You just kind of had to learn it. And so I
Right.
started with PC stuff, and quickly I ran through that and got bored, because there's not enough to do on a PC. You become an expert very quickly. And then I got into networking and found, okay, wow, this is deep, right? I can take it wherever I want. A close second was data, because I had actually built some data systems for the first company that I worked for. And I was like, hey, I kind of like this. But, from what you're saying or kind of picturing, it's almost like Cade's at this point where he's like, networking's great, but I think I tapped it out.
Right.
Maybe there's something more I want to do. But you can't know that when you're first coming out.
No, not at all.
Extremely difficult to know that.
It is, and I think that's why I'm grateful that the jobs that I did have.
Great, because you haven't pigeonholed yourself.
Right.
Because you could have.
No,
And
absolutely.
I went through, got a 4-year degree, gotten certifications in a specific area, and then been like 3 years later, well, that's done.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I did get my associates from EA and pushed on and ended up getting my bachelor's from DeVry, but I got it in technical management. I wanted I guess that side of it, just to have it in case those management positions came available. I'd have it, because I knew I had the certs and the knowledge to get those other jobs or whatever I needed, but went on to get a bachelor's just for that management capability.
Has that helped you? Did you learn anything in that was beneficial?
No, well, I'd say that now. I'm just bitter because the student loans, but
Yeah.
no, in all reality, I think it did help me as far as on the personnel side of it. Like some of the HR classes and business classes I took as a part of that bachelor's, I think helped. I've been really fortunate in my knowledge and accolades when it comes to the technology side of it. And so and I was already in the field, so I didn't feel like I learned a whole lot more from that aspect of it, but I think I learned a lot more on how other people may see technology and how to help them implement said technology as opposed to just learning cool new things,
Yeah. What do you find harder?
as
So
far as
is a degree harder to get, or is it learning the technical information harder?
for me, it was the degree, hands down. Yeah.
Why would you say that? I mean,
I don't know if it's just because I have more of a passion for the technology side of it. And so it may be more difficult from the outside eye, but because I have a passion for it, because I love it so much, maybe it comes easier, or I'm more eager to learn about it as opposed to those other things that are good to know and help me as a professional, but I wasn't super passionate about it.
yeah, yeah. I agree with that as far as how I feel about it, because everybody's different. Everybody's really
Mhm.
different. I found that getting degrees, which I've gotten a lot of, that was academically easier than pursuing certifications or some of the information you get thrown into, right? Like, I'll have you share an experience in a minute, like of where they're like, "Hey, let's do this," and you're like, "I don't know anything about it," and you have to go and learn it. And so it was easier than doing that stuff. However, it was a lot harder because my interest was just not there.
Right.
It's time to do that assignment. Just
Mhm.
and push through it. So academically, it's not that hard, but it's like just a kind of a grind to.
Absolutely.
But it's a grind that often you have to do,
Mhm.
but you don't know until you get to that point.
Right.
When you
And,
start hitting that area where you're the server guy. That's all you are.
right.
And then, okay, I've got to change that perception.
Mhm.
So, do you have one of those experiences? One of those experiences, to me, a lot of these happened when I was young, when I was in just barely in the field. And then they go, "Hey, can we do this?" And that it's possible to do, but you don't know how any of it's done.
Right. Absolutely. I think when I first got hired on there down at Fort Thomas Schools, I was 25 at the time, 24 at the time. I'm basically taking almost like a system admin role,
Yeah.
but not being called a system admin. I was just a computer tech. It was my job description, if you will. But the decisions I was making were at a system admin level. And so they had asked me about some software for lab imaging and to remotely view it and to watch it. And I had familiar with it to an extent. I'd seen it, but I'd never been in charge of it. And so, yeah, I could tell them, yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure this is how it works, but I'll have to come back to you. And then I think approaching it with that standpoint helped set me up for success. I could have easily told them, well, yeah, I know I can do this, this, and this, and this, but I was upfront and honest with them. I said, look, I don't have that much expertise in it. I know it is capable of these things. Let me make sure to research it, go back, and I'll come back to you and tell you if it's a good fit or not. And we can learn it and implement it together. And it was pretty successful.
Fantastic. So I heard honesty there.
Weird, right?
that it wasn't like a hidden thing of like, oh yeah, sure. Now I'll go and figure it all out. I won't be upfront and tell them, hey, I've never done that before, but I'm pretty sure you can do it. Let me go check it out. I think a lot of time in our industry, that approach is not taken.
Not at all.
Oh yeah, I know all about that stuff.
It's really easy to blow smoke in IT because no one's going to know that you're blowing smoke.
Yeah, that is very, very true.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell that by some people that have been hired that I've known. Like, how did they get through that interview?
Right.
Just string together some words that sound techie and you end up getting through. So don't be that way is what I'm telling students.
No, don't.
Just be open. Just let them know,
Yep.
yeah, we can get it done. And the honest truth is that's what they deal with all the time. And so when they don't get that from IT, it's like a little weird. So there is something that you picked out on there that actually I kind of didn't learn about myself until probably about 6 or 7 years ago. Because I got my start much the same way. And I think that a lot of people that take these classes also have gotten their start the same way, which is you're into gaming.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand about myself that when I was doing that young, what I really liked was the excitement of not knowing and being able to figure it out.
Right.
And even while I was working, I didn't know that that's why I was doing what I was doing. That emotionally deep underneath, oh, I like gadgets and I like networking and I like plugging things in. There was this desire of, I don't know how to do that. So I want to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that drives a lot of IT people. I think
Yes.
it keeps them moving forward instead of dreading it work every day.
Absolutely. And it does. I think it sets them apart. It's that problem solving, that troubleshooting, that desire once you do learn it to make it the best, to be really good at it.
Yeah.
And I think it's very applicable.
Now you've been involved in hiring, right?
I have, very much so.
Yeah. So what's your approach and what do you like to see?
Right. Again, it's all that 100% honesty. Like I can tell when we're doing interviews if a gentleman won't smoke or a lady or whomever we're interviewing isn't 100% truthful. Their education is important. Their experience is extremely important to me. And then certificates are also important. I would say experience to me is probably one of the major factor that I look at, because anybody can cram for a cert. Anybody technically can go get a degree. It's did you use those in practice and put them to good use? What did you do? Tell me what you did. And I understand that's hard when it comes to entry level positions, but I think anybody trying to get an entry level position in IT would have some type of experience on the back end, whether it be helping their aunt and uncle with their computer or something to that extent, some type of desire to fix things, to be in IT even before you are in IT, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good to point out. If you don't have the experience, realize that you do.
Exactly.
And yes, it's not as much as somebody else, and you don't know who else is in the interviews. You don't know if they've got somebody just waiting to come in and they've got 5 years worth of experience. You have no idea. So take what you have and tell them about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I was to do that, like if I'm coming in brand new, I'm in an interview, and honestly, my experience is helping grandma, it's helping my dad do something. What would you want me to explain to you? What are the things that you would want to pick out of that? Because let me phrase this for the students. The person doing the interview does not want to pick that out of you.
No,
they're not going to say, what about this? What about this? What about this? They want you to tell them. So what do you expect to hear? I help my grandma.
And a lot of it is how their attitude in helping. Like, were they excited about it? Were they excited about the outcome? Were they annoyed by it? Were they, how do they perceive that problem and that issue? Because that's going to tell me how you're going to be as an employee in my IT department, whether, because these are problems arise, are you going to be excited to fix them? Or are you going to be annoyed by them? Yeah, it's just, there's so much that you can learn out of those questions that makes you a good fit or not in my particular environment. And just the way they describe it, do they go into the details when I ask them about it, or do they just say, oh, their computer had a problem and I fixed it? No, they can go back and say, well, this driver was causing a conflict with this, or, it just depends on how I can tell just by how they describe their problem and what they did with how they handle things.
So what else do you look for?
Silly enough as it is, people skills. I really do. I think that goes a lot. People, I think at the end of the day, are okay with people not knowing the answer or with not being able to fix their problem right away. But if they have a good relationship or those people skills, they can say, look, I may not be able to fix it right now, but we're going to fix it. We're going to be able to accomplish the task that we need to. And it's important to be able to have those open lines of communication with the individual in order to establish that. I think gone are the days of the IT person that just gets to sit in a closet and work with computers all day. I mean, those jobs do exist, but not in my world. You can't afford to do that. You've got to be able to have those working relationships and be able to talk to people, to be able to understand their problems. And it's a skill set, because their problem that they're describing to you, I would say 75% of the time is probably not the real problem. It's what the real problem is to them, but it's not what's actually causing the issue. And so being able to have those open communications and talk with them and dig down a little bit deeper, actually what's happening, what is the root cause of the problem is important.
So having said that, what would you tell a student that knows that they don't have really good people skills? They're starting out in college, they know they don't have them. They're not sure if they can even get them. What advice would you give them?
I think they have them. It's just, it's hard to let them come out on the surface. Ask them, you take it back to gaming, take it back to whatever you want. I mean, I'm sure behind a screen name or behind an avatar or whatever you like to call it, those anxieties or whatever we want to contribute to probably aren't there. You can be open and have communication, and it's easy. And so maybe focus on that skill set that you developed there that's comfortable, and just apply that to the real world, because it's, believe it or not, it's humans that you're talking to that are behind those other characters and avatars. Those same characteristics exist out here too. You just got to be brave enough to interact with them, and it's there, and it'll develop as you practice.
And I think as students start out, their opinion of what they're going into.
Yes.
I think that 80% of those individuals are going to be snappy. They're going to be angry. They're going to put them on the spot. Is that what you find? Do you find 80% of the people that you've had to deal with over the years, like, well, why isn't this working? Get it working? Or are they different than that?
No, I would say majority of them, like I said, that having open communication, they're a lot more warm than that. They understand. You're there to help. You didn't cause a problem. You're not there to, condescend down to them. And it's how you handle the situation as well. I've seen some people tell their horror stories of trying to repair stuff, and then in the interaction with how they're talking to that individuals is like, yeah, no wonder you were talking to that person like they're inferior to you. No wonder they treated you so poorly. It goes both ways, and it's not perfect. You will find those that are like, oh, technology's crap. This is stupid. Why are we doing this? And I think part of the most gratification I've ever had at my job is being able to stop them right there and say, why is this frustrating for you? Why are you having a hard time with this? What can I do to help? And that takes people by surprise, I think, so often, because I think they're used to the, well, I'm sorry, you're just stupid, whatever. I don't know where they come from, but to be able to get people on your side when it comes to technology has been a really enjoyable aspect of my job, because it's change. You're changing their job when you implement technology, and it's difficult. People hate change. It's just a natural characteristic.
Yeah. So you're saying that you have to deal with some of that annoying portions of people.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Just all the time.
No, it's not as bad here, I think, because we've gotten them, I don't want to say conditioned. That's such an awful job. Maybe trained. I don't know, because like they're not dogs or anything else like that. But their expectations, I guess that's a better term for it. We've set their expectations of we are a technologically minded organization, and so with that comes change. But to also understand that when we implement this change, you're not on your own. That we're here implementing that change alongside with you, and then we can grow and develop and be better because of that. And so that helps out.
Okay. So let's talk about the technical side. Let's say that for some reason, you guys actually hired one of our students straight out of college, and really all they have is, I helped grandma. So on the technical side of that, when they show up and it's week one, what do you want to see most of all from them?
Work ethic. That's a big part of it. And don't hesitate to ask questions. We get into more trouble when those think that they know what they're doing and do more harm than good if they would just stop to ask. Give you a prime example, not here, Reese, but my last job, I had a network guy that was underneath me that we were doing a brand new install at this doctor's office. And it was something like 65 computers and 3 servers. I mean, big old 2-story medical complex. And I needed him to do some more entry-level stuff so he could get done. But he got stuck on this networking problem that he just wanted to fix himself, and just troubleshot it over and over, probably for 8 hours. This guy was troubleshooting it. Finally, I should have done it sooner, but I got enough nerve to go up and talk to him and say, hey, we got to do something else. Let me take a look at it. And it was something just out of his scope of knowledge. It was something simple, and I had it done in 5 minutes. And so it's just, if he would have said, hey, I'm really struggling with this.
Cable, and you're like, click.
Yeah, essentially almost that easy, but it was just, he didn't have the knowledge for it, and it's not his fault, but at the same time, he didn't ask for help. And so that was kind of, it could save so much more time. And
Yeah.
so hiring someone here at the city entry level, we're going to introduce you to a lot of stuff because we do a lot of things when it comes to technology. And so just being able to be that face of IT, as silly as that sounds, because a lot of us are behind the scenes when it comes to what we do on a day-to-day basis. I don't get to work hand in hand with people. The level one person gets that perk. And so just being that face of IT, being pleasant, understanding their issue, and if you can't fix it, being able to relay what's going on back to us so we can tell you how to fix it and then go in and do it. And that's how you learn. I mean, that'd be a good learning environment to be in.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said that, just to let the students know. It's not like we talked about all this stuff before. I'm just asking questions and he's answering. But the reason I am glad that you said that is because, right, we try to do that in a college situation. We try to get those students to talk to each other and to deal with things together, to find the answer together. I tell them that all the time. Hey, you're in a lab, so don't feel weird about asking another person. You can clearly see they're past where you are. They're
Right.
past where you are. Say, hey, how did you get that to load? Where is that found? Because it's vital for when you go out to work. And I've also told them in the intro course, you're going to find that most people in IT are very welcoming. And if you say, I want to learn this, they will just bend over backwards to help you learn it, because everybody goes through it. Everybody has that intro phase where it seems like all of the IT concepts are slamming down on you like a wave. And you're just doing your best to try to swim through it. And so they're very willing to help. So I'm glad you that was like the first thing. It's like, hey, you have a good work ethic and ask questions. Don't sit there.
Right.
Because I'm going to tell you, students, I have some students and they'll just sit there. And they'll sit there and I'll look over there and I'm like, I want to see them ask. They won't even ask me.
Right.
Just sit there. And so we go through 2 labs and the person hasn't done the second step. That kind of attitude is never going to survive. You can't. No. You'll be fired within 6 months because they're like, you're not doing the job. And why aren't you doing the job? Because I'm not asking any questions. Somehow I think I'm supposed to be the expert day one.
And there's no way.
There's no way. And I want to point that out because everybody has to do it. So it doesn't matter if you went into marketing, if you went into HR, everybody has to ask questions. But in IT, it is like that big wave, where others, it's sort of like wading through deeper waters, but there's still not this wave of information. Okay, we do this and you got to log in this way and you got to do it this time. And that's not the way other careers are. No. And
that's, I guess, what's made me such a good systems admin is I've stuck to it. Now I've got almost 20 plus years in IT. And so I've seen a thing or two. And so therefore I know a thing or two.
Yeah.
And so I think early on, it was hard for me to understand that concept, especially when I got into technology. I was rubbing shoulders with some older gentlemen that, had been, hey, it's not as privy to some of the newer technologies that I was grasping so much. And so, but then again, they had seen where technology had its kryptonite or had fallen short. And that was a piece of humble pie for me, is they did know more when that time came, as far as the technology aspect. They may have not understood the technology, but they knew the implementation and the history of it better than I did.
Yeah. Always something to learn.
Yes.
So good work ethic, ask questions, don't isolate yourself. Anything else you'd add to it?
I think it's that desire to learn. And I think hopefully you're getting IT because you have that desire. I don't think you know more. Be humble about it and also contribute. If you do think you know something else, don't be afraid to speak up. That's okay too. That's majority of it. And the rest of it can come. Like I can train and teach anybody that wants to learn. Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind. And so, but having that natural knack for technology, that desire, helps tremendously.
Well, a question I can ask you that I can't ask others that I interview. When you're dealing with network and system admin stuff, and you deal with data, and what you're dealing with data there, what do you think the biggest difference is between those two forks? A lot of people don't have that. That's what I'm saying. It's very hard
Right.
to find somebody that's interested in data and can understand those concepts at a deeper level than, this is what a table looks like. And somebody that also understands networking to the point that they can describe more than, this is where you put the IP4 number. What do you
I
think?
think a lot of it is I guess I want to say flexibility aspect. With networking, it's very cut and dry. Like either that traffic is going to pass or it's not. It's very binary when it comes to that. But when it comes to databases driving business decisions and understanding how those can benefit, you really got to think outside the box. And I think that's where I really enjoyed that side of it is, so here we've got this system and we've got this system. Well, this system does this well. This system does this well. Well, can we borrow from this system, implement it into this system and give them like a complete package so it's what they really need? We've done that with our HR. We're working hand in hand with them. We're pulling stuff out of our accounting database. Our online stuff is with Laserfish Forms, which is like a document management. And so it's all, we've gone from filing cabinets to digital, and it's been fantastic. It's all there. It's automated. It's put a whole lot less workload on them. It's a big learning curve for them. Don't get me wrong, but it's all automated. Our whole hiring process is now automated because we have that I guess that data-driven mentality, or that mentality of, could this be better? It's not either working or it's not, because their old process was working.
Yeah.
It just, could it be better? And yes, the answer is yes.
Do you think there's a mental difference in the person?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What would that difference be if you could boil it down? Somebody on the data side or somebody on the network side? What would be like the mental? We're not trying to say one's smarter than the other. We're not saying
no, because no, not at all. I think
what's the mental?
They're not, maybe this doesn't sound awful. I'm not trying to throw shade at one way or the other, but they're not okay with the status quo. I don't know if I can describe it that way, because with networking, like I said, it's either working or it's not. It's either going through passing traffic, passing through the firewall, you're allowing it or you're not. And at the end of the day, that's it. But there's a lot more to it when it comes to security vulnerabilities and making sure you're doing your job. It's a very taxing job, absolutely.
Yeah.
But me personally, where I get a little bit more gratification is in helping the user work hard, work smarter, work better, and have a better time at work because technology is helping them out.
Yeah. So to me, that is fundamental in all the people that I have seen that are great successes at what they do. They have a focus on, does this actually do anything for somebody?
Right.
They're not focused on, well, according to this list, I have done what I was supposed to do. I have 10 things here and I did them all.
Mm-hmm.
They're more concerned about, did that help this person or this department or the entire business? They have that focus instead, because you can do the 10 things and not please anybody.
Right.
Exactly. So I think that's fundamental for students to understand. If you really want to be successful, you can be successful at whatever technology you choose to, as long as you're focused on, am I actually helping that person?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It goes really far when it comes to overall success and flexibility. Absolutely. I can show up and do my job and not care, and I would still get paid and I would still go home and I'd probably still be fine in all reality of it. But consciously, I don't know, ethically, I wouldn't feel as rewarded as I do in my job. Because let's talk about pay scale, for example, where I'm at presently. The pay scale of my job, just to give you flat out numbers, is 62,000 to 102,000. So it's a pretty big range, when it comes to pay scale for my position. I could be making a lot more someplace else that I could just show up and do my job. But here I get the flexibility and the opportunity to grow my skill set, to be the decision maker when it comes to the technology. And it's a little bit more than dollar signs at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. You got to have the dollar signs. But...
Yeah, you got to have the dollar signs. You got to have enough of the dollars. You really do.
Right.
So how about that entry level position? I know you guys have hired at different areas, different levels over the years. If somebody was to try for an entry level position, that, by the way, students, is not open at Safford.
Yeah.
What would the pay range be?
Let me look that up real quick. Do you mind? Give me 2
Yeah,
seconds.
no problem.
I off the top of my head, I think it's anywhere from 30. Oh my gosh, just pull it up. That's record time, by the way, guys. Where are they at? For a, sorry, we have so many skills. I think it's utilities worker, information technology support specialist. There's our entry. See, and I was going to shortchange them. Right now, their range is 41.4 to 57.8 is the salary range for our entry level position.
That is good to know. And that's just right here in the little old Gila Valley.
Yeah, we do pretty good on our entry levels. I would say it's the city of Safford is probably one of the best, minus the mine. But then the mine is kind of volatile when it comes to in and out. I mean, if copper's doing good, yeah, your job's going to be great. But if you're first in, you're first out when copper tanks.
Yeah.
But with that risk comes the money. So if that's something you want to chase, that's a great place to work. I know some really good people that work up there.
Yeah.
So absolutely, it'd be a good place to start out if those jobs are open. But
well, thank you for your time. And is there anything else that you would add?
oh, goodness, I don't know. I hope some of the stuff I've talked about is of any worth by any shape or
very
means.
much well worth.
But I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy the learning atmosphere. I've been able to have had the opportunity to teach a little bit at EA, and it's enjoyable. You guys have got a good one when it comes to Mr. McBride, so be thankful for that and learn all that you can.
Well, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. He's just saying that because I said he was in the top 5. So, and you know, the only reason I can't place him is, you know, I'm to that point where I've seen so many students. I'm not sure who did what. All I know is the students will come through and I'll go, oh, that's a smart one, right? And they're picking up on stuff. Having said that, I always tell my students it is better to be a diligent studier than it is to be a smart one. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, absolutely. And I think that I probably wasn't the best student, you know, going through. I may have had a skill set and the knowledge and know-how, but I think if I would have probably spent more time and attention to diligence when it comes to that, I probably would have been better off starting out in the career field than I was.
Well,
so
Janice might have said that. I wouldn't have said that.
She wasn't wrong. I mean, I can't call a spade, but it teaches you, because when you get out there, you're going to come across stuff that you don't know, you have zero clue about. You've got to have that grit and that determination to knuckle down and study it. You know, there's been times that I've been here extremely late, you know, working on something, and if it would be easy for me to say, it'll be here when I get here in the morning. But then with the morning comes all the distractions of everything else.
Yeah.
And you don't get to spend as much time on trying to figure out the issue that you wanted. And so having that determination and that capability is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. I've told students there's so many things that I did wrong. And so when I'm talking about that, most of those are city of Safford, because I didn't have any clue of what I was doing. And there was no real internet to help you figure it out. But you just keep plugging and then you get it right. And that's, to me, that's what I experienced. That's what they care about. They care about that system is working and you got it right. And yeah, there was quite a few late nights because I needed to make sure that was going to be working by the time that they tried to use it. And they don't care, right? And there's a negative to that too. The negative is they don't care that I was there that late.
No, they don't.
They're like, hey, sweet, don't tell me a sob story, right? They don't care about that. But at the same time, they're results oriented.
Right. And I think that's another thing to understand coming into IT that people from outside may not understand. When things are working great, you know, IT does have a lot of flexibility on what you can and can do, you know, throughout the workday or what you can focus on. But they understand when things are broken, when they do not work, like that is where you are going to be until it is fixed.
Yeah.
There are no, because who else is going to fix it? No one's, it's on you, it's on your shoulders. So you're pretty much married to that position, that job. You're locked in to that arena of whatever you want to call it. until you come out the victor.
Yeah.
And so that's where that grit and determination that comes in again, because you can't quit. You can't just let it be. It's either you give up your job and don't come back the next day, or you figure it out.
Well, and that's key, because that's the fundamental thing that you'll hear across any industry. Whatever you're doing, if you're going to go in and fix it and be dedicated in doing that, then you will succeed to the point of being able to move someplace else. Like in your situation, you don't want to leave. Doesn't mean that you don't want the choice to be able to know that, well, you right now could apply to many different jobs. And probably within, I'm guessing, 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, you'll have 2 or 3 job offers. And that's because, well, if you have that attitude, then you've been successful. If you haven't had that attitude, then you haven't been. And chances are you won't be able to get that other job, because somewhere along the line, they'll figure that out about you. That you're not the person that's going to be working when times get tough. You're the person that's going to be going, it's somebody else. It was them.
Oh, and it's really easy to get into that rut when it comes to technology, because you can blame so many different things as part of the problem.
Yeah.
When they come, especially with this vendor choice that I get to choose, when they come to me with those problems, it'd be really easy to say, well, that vendor can help you with that. We and I kind of had a nip it in the bud, and we had a hashtag in the department of hashtag call, and then this vendor name, because, well, that was our bitter feeling on the matter. But at the end of it, at the end of the day, we still have to, we get to help them with those issues. And so it would have been really easy, but I think I'm more successful, and it's been better for my career and my employment here by having the bigger attitude of, let me help you. Let's get it fixed.
Yeah. Well, I'd agree with that. And I thank you. Thank you for being active in the EAC community.
Yeah.
And helping out with this video. It's fantastic.
I'm happy to.
We will do it again sometime. Because I could leave this video out for the next 5 years. That's not who I am.
Very good.
So we'll definitely do this again. Maybe even next fall we'll get something going.
Sounds good.
I will let you know that I do leave this a little open-ended to the students. So they'll have a section that basically is there any other questions that you would have asked?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so when they ask those, if there's a ton of them, then we'll just do another video. Otherwise, I'll kind of send them over, and then at your leisure, you can say, yeah, this is what I would do in that situation, or
absolutely
just think about that. Because it really is vital to students to be able to hear from somebody that's in the business, that's doing it, has gone through it, and you're doing it now.
Yeah. And I'm loving it. It's a good thing.
I'm hoping that they'll have some questions.
Right. Yeah. Please. There's no wrong question. No, people, it's a silly question. There's no such thing. Question is a question. So ask away.
There are some silly questions, like, do you get bathroom breaks? That's
right. Depends on how broke things are.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You may be, can somebody bring me something to eat and a very big caffeine drink, please?
Yes.
Why don't you do it? I can't.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. We'll have to get together for lunch and do that.
Absolutely.
It's been a while. It's been like 3 months or something. So
for sure, James, for sure. I sure appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you, and thank you very much. And we'll talk with you later.
Sounds great.